about 3 or so weeks. So thank you very much across all the organizations represented here. We would try to shave off as much time as possible because usually we'll do introductions and go around the room and introduce ourselves. But what we'll do is as everybody gets a chance to speak, you either introduce yourself or you get introduced by one of the hosts here, who's Margaret Olele from the American Business Council of Nigeria. So very quickly, my name is Lola Adekanye. I'm the Regional Director for Africa at the Center for International Private Enterprise. This is exactly the sort of thing that CIPE exists to do, work with the private sector and public sector stakeholders and all the other stakeholders who hold different or have different responsibilities in the governance ecosystem of the countries that we work in to make things work and make the lives of citizens and residents better. So it's very exciting for me to be part of this meeting and to be able to bring you all together to have a conversation about a very important sector in the Nigerian economy, and that's one of the countries that CIPE is strategically invested in. Without further ado, I want to pass it on to Paul Pleber. Paul is a Senior Director on Strategy and Innovation at CIPE. Paul covers our Africa work and has done quite a lot of work across Africa. Surprisingly, he's not done much work in Nigeria, so this is the closest that Paul comes to Nigeria, and hopefully we continue this conversation and get to bring you out to Nigeria more, Paul. So I'll pass it on to you, Paul, to properly welcome us to CIPE, and then when you're done, please pass it on to Margaret.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning to those, or afternoon likely to those online. On behalf of the Center for International Private Enterprise, I am delighted to welcome you all here. Today's roundtable is, of course, about trade facilitation and customs operations. I want to thank the American Business Council in particular for taking the initiative here, and of course, the Nigerian Customs Service for their leadership and partner creating this important dialogue today. So it really is a pleasure to be here. Lola hinted a bit to my own background, but I've had the chance. I worked on general economic development in a variety of places. That has often meant trade facilitation. I specifically worked on trade facilitation in Ghana, so not too far from Nigeria, but very different, I know. South Africa, Myanmar, and a variety of other places in a lighter touch fashion. So I'm familiar with a lot of the challenges and opportunities that we all are facing. So a little bit of basics here. Most of you probably know this, but Nigeria is Africa's 4th largest importer and a major exporter, plays a critical role in regional and global trade. Yet, like many countries, operational and structural opportunities in ports and customs can still be captured to increase efficiency, competitiveness, and facilitate private sector growth. Delays in clearance and procedure uncertainties raise the costs, which cascades to the economy. We have a lot of opportunity to improve and to really foster what the private sector needs, is the dependability and speed. The good news is that efficient customs administration can be transformative. It can unlock trade, strengthen competitiveness, and deepen economic ties between Nigeria and the United States. We commend the Nigerian Customs Service and the government of Nigeria for the steps already underway, digitizing processes, engaging stakeholders, and aligning with international standards. These efforts are vital, and continued collaboration between the public and private sectors will ensure they translate into tangible improvements in transparency, efficiency, and service delivery. At CIPE, our work is guided by 3 strategic themes, and this roundtable speaks to each of these. I'll quickly give you a summary of these. We work on advancing economic freedoms. By addressing customs efficiency and regulations, we help reduce barriers to trade and create a more predictable environment where businesses can thrive. The second theme we work on at CIPE is expanding opportunity. Streamlined customs operations open the door for more firms, especially small and medium enterprises, to participate in global value chains grow. And our third theme is strengthening economic democratic resilience. Transparent, efficient customs systems build trust between governments and the private sector, reinforcing accountability and resilience in both economic and governance structures. So today's roundtable is designed as a working session. Together, we will identify opportunities to strengthen customs, operations, and systems. We'll also learn from relevant case studies and offer practical lessons. Finally, we'll define near-term, actionable steps to improve trade facilitation. And I think in these kinds of dialogues, I'm going to reiterate that point one more time. As you listen to each speaker, think about what can we practically do, what's feasible, what's in the realm of the possible, what's the next step given all the things that are already underway. As a deliverable, CIPE will provide a tailored guide to support continued engagement between the Nigeria Customs Service and the American Business Council, including approaches for tracking progress and sustaining momentum. I encourage all of us to engage openly, share perspectives, and work towards solutions that will make Nigeria's trade environment more efficient, competitive, and inclusive. Thank you, and I look forward to a productive discussion.
Great, thank you, Paul. Now over to you, Margaret.
Thank you so much. And again, it's a great pleasure to be here. I would say that American Business Council and CIPE are natural partners, obviously, because of what CIPE does and who we are. Just in terms of giving some context, the American Business Council is the voice of American businesses in Nigeria, the American Chamber of Commerce, and the affiliate of the U.S. Chamber in DC. And one of the things so again, back to who we are, we have over 100 U.S. companies that are members of the council, including those who are very heavy in the area of bringing in goods and really interfacing in the ports importation and exportation of, particularly importation of goods, especially the category, the committee we call the FMCG, but also we have a couple of our companies in the oil sector who are into this. A bit of context in terms of how we set our engagement, active, proactive engagement with the customs. We recognize that the ease of doing business is a prerequisite to ensure that businesses thrive in the country. And so we set what we call the Ease of Doing Business series, and the first guest we had was the Comptroller General of Customs. And at that event, there were lots of, these are some of the things that challenges we are facing and all. And moving forward, there was the Comptroller General of Customs, who I would like to thank at this meeting, even though he's not here, is a proactive stance in how to move forward and how to engage to resolve not every issue, but as much as we can, and really seeing the kind of innovation that he had, the insights he had of how to move things forward is quite complimentary, including having even a paperless customs within the next 5 years or so, which is open to issues around transparency and making things work a lot better. So we agreed to have he accepted to have a quarterly meeting with the American Business Council as NCS and ABC to address these issues and to look into some of the pain point areas and areas for improvement. Since then we've had the first quarterly meeting sponsored. So it's really customs would do these and Google. So they hosted the first one. We're going to be hosting the second in June. But between the hosting of the first and second, we recognize some of the outcomes that we shared. So beyond obviously commending customs for the great job, we also recognize that certain issues came up. Some of these issues still in the area of regulatory misalignment. the fact that we find different stakeholders in the regulatory space doing almost the same thing, and we're not sure who is doing what. But hopefully, there's the one window that we currently have, the single window that was just set up by the government and more broader engagement in that manner. That would help, but then we started wondering how this single window work with the earlier one-stop shop that the customs already has put in place. So
recording in progress.
Issues. I think the second that came out really strongly is the increase of grade devices, importation of grade devices, affecting a number of our companies, especially in the tech space. And we recognize that there are opportunities for us to do a couple of work in this area in terms of partnership with customs, capacity building, and really seeing how we can work even around Intel, to get some of this off the ground. So that I do not take the time of a lot of people, I would also like to recognize the two representatives of customs at this meeting, the AC Osamoyi Uzamere from the Trade and Tariff, and AC Suleiman Idris from ICT. One of the issues I think as a partnership is that we also made some comments around downtime, and opportunities to support or partner in the area of improving ICT and maybe the strength we have in the AI space and what we can really do as a US traditional US companies.
My name is Assistant Controller E.O. Zamari from the ICT department. I serve Nigeria Customs Service. I come here bearing greetings from the Comptroller General of Customs, who's deeply interested in this. That's why he nominated some of us for this. So I don't know if I should go ahead and give my presentation, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. The summary of my presentation is the highlights of custom operation innovations in Nigeria, and I'm Uzamere. And the core topics we're going to discuss, that's the next slide, is I'm going to talk about our new clearance application, which is called the Bodogu UCMS, and the full automation. I'm also going to discuss a little bit about the risk management and non-intrusive inspection. Also the electronic cargo tracking system, the AEO, advanced ruling, time release studies. These are new innovations that the Nigeria Customs Service have put in place. Then also our alignment with the WTO TFA and the one-stop shop, and also our regional integration, our ECOWAS regional integration, which is called the SIGMAT. Then also we're going to talk about some new innovations in Nigeria Customs Service, like using the geospatial technology for border management. I don't know who's in control of the slides. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, the next slide actually is on, okay, the next one too, I've spoken about this, is innovation architecture, right? The reform is logic and it's based on trade facilitation, revenue assurance, and national security, because that's our mandate, right? So there's a digital core, which means that we replaced our fragmented paper-heavy procedures with integrated electronic workflow in the last couple of years, because we have what they call the Nigeria Customs Service Modernization Project, we started in 2022, which bases actually to automate our business processes and to use emerging technology to ensure that there are no gaps or bottlenecks. The next is our risk-based control, where we moved from blanket checks to intelligence-based selectivity. Now, this was very important for us because in Nigeria Customs Service previously, we're losing a lot of revenues and security tools at risk. Now, based on what we have done in the past couple of years, it has improved some stakeholder trust, where it has strengthened predictability for traders through transparency, advanced decisions, and service-oriented processing. Then also interoperability, we'll be able to connect across a lot of stakeholders, which was not there before, and also across custom administrations like the Benin Republic and other ECOWAS countries. We're able to connect to them to improve end-to-end cargo visibility. Then also data action, We also use analytics and data for our time release study and our geospatial intelligence. That is it for our innovation. Then next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk about our new clearance application, which is called the Bodogu. Okay, the Bodogu is a unified clearance management system, which has automated our, no, please go back, yeah. The Bodogu is a unified clearance management system, which automates all our business processes. Previously, we were using an application called the NICIS, Nigeria Integrated Custom Management System, which automated our processes, but not all. Some of our processes were not automated, like some payments were not there, and some of our transit was not automated. But the coming of the UCMS, we have automated a lot of our processes. An example of that is that we standardize our declarations and review across all stakeholders. It improved our audit trails, our role-based accountability and feasibility across commands, and also it creates a stronger platform for future integration and analytics. Now, going forward, we noticed that integration, automation is not just about automation. We also have to ensure that our business processes are aligned with international best practices. So what we did, right, we replaced a lot of repetitive manual handles with system-driven routing, where it embeds a lot of our controls directly to workflow, relying not just only on paper checks, but on automation. Then also it supports a lot of electronic records, which were not used to previously. And doing that reduce a lot of bottlenecks and reduce risks and process inconsistency. Now, what's the result? There was greater process consistency, stronger traceability, integrity, better turnaround potential, higher quality operational data. The truth is this: when automation actually became better, security became better, revenue was better, and trace facilitation was adhered to. The truth is this: the Controller General actually believes in international best practices. That's why we adhere to the WTO TFA and other WCO regulations. Next slide, please. The Universal Risk Management System and non-intrusive inspection. So one of the things that the Nigeria Customs have done apart in its modernization policy is to ensure that we use what they call the Universal Risk Management System and implementation of non-intrusive inspection. Now, what does the Universal Risk Management do? It profiles traders, cargo routes, and declaration by risks. Also, it facilitates low-risk consignments while concentrating efforts on high-risk cargo. Now, this is going to help interoperability and also facilitate trade. It also improves our revenue assurance and security without slowing compliant traders. And also, we use data to allocate scarce examination resources, which ensure that Nigeria Customs Service work more efficiently. Also, previously, we're used to using manual and physical examination, but now we are moving into a non-inspection regime where we use scanners to do our physical examination. Now, this scanner analysis we use to inspect cargo without opening every consignment, and it has reduced our clearance time. It also accelerates our processing, reduce unnecessary handling, and improve officer safety. It supports target examination with scan results, indicates anomalies, and create a stronger evidence base for enforcement decisions. Now, the truth is this: the best effect comes when non-intrusive inspection is integrated with declaration data and risk selectivity, which the Nigeria Customs Service currently have put in place. Next slide, please. Now, the next slide shows cargo visibility before and after arrival. Now, this is based on WTO TFA Article 7.1, which talks about pre-arrival assessment. So now Nigeria Customs Service has implemented a very robust pre-arrival assessment, which is domiciled at the headquarters, where you start with some kind of document review, value analysis, and risk processing before cargo lands. This is going to help lower dwell time. Also, arrival of manifest match. Now, when all the stakeholders send their document before the consignment arrive, it helps in clearance times, and there's targeted intervention, and release is monitored and movement. So what does that mean? There are fewer delays, avoidable delays, stronger transit integrity, and more predictable cargo handling. Next slide, please. So going forward, The Nigerian Customs Service also have also implemented the Trusted Trader and Certainty Mechanism, which is also in line with the WTO TFA, like the AEO, which is the WTO TFA 7.7, and the Advanced Ruling, which is WTO TFA Article 3. Now, the AEO recognizes highly compliant operators with strong internal controls. It just helps and supports faster clearance times to ensure that compliant traders are expedited. And and it's very good for Nigeria Customs Service, which has reduced clearance time. The next is the advanced ruling. Now, this provides official decisions in advanced ruling matters for tariff classification, origin, and valuation. Now, this gives the stakeholders an ability to classify correctly to ensure there's no bottlenecks or unnecessary stops and delay. And what has it done? It has enabled private sector trust. These are part of the innovations that Nigeria Customs Service have implemented of late. The next is the time release study. As we all know, the time release study measures the actual time. Next slide, please. The time release study measures the actual time taken from arrival to release. Now, it helps provide evidence base for reform prioritization and help demonstrate whether our modernization project is actually working. Now, all these I've explained as fall into standards and metrics of the WTO TFA WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement alignment. Next slide, please. Also, we've implemented the one-stop shop, but not fully, and also the coordinated border management. Well, what this brings all regulatory agencies in one place rather than creating bottlenecks, and this is going to ensure stakeholders are treated well. Instead of going from one stop to another, we have a place where all actors in the trade supply chains are targeted and they work together to ensure that to reduce clearance time and to reduce bottleneck. The next is our regional integration with SIGMAT. Like I said earlier on, the Nigeria Customs Service has integrated with countries like Benin Republic to ensure transit is seamless and automated. What that means is that our systems talk to each other. We're able to ensure that our Bodogu system, which is our clearance application, and theirs is the custom web, they talk to each other, and that has helped interoperability. Where, for example, a goods coming from Ghana will pass through Benin and come to Nigeria. It will ensure that there's no bottleneck and there's no diversion, and it helps interoperability between countries. Next slide, please. The next I'm going to talk about, no, the next I'm going to talk about is geospatial technology. Next, geospatial technology for border management and enforcement. Now, what happens is that the Nigeria Customs Service has implemented a geospatial technology intelligence to help map vulnerable crossing points and patrol routes. It supports asset deployment and rapid response planning. It combines route intelligence with cargo tracking and enforcement patterns, and it strengthens surveillance of extensive land borders and difficult terrain. Now, how that helps us is through our geospatial technology, we will be able to map out our border stations to ensure that resources are routed to the right place. It helps our checkpoints rather than officers risking their lives at the commands. We check where there's any illegal border crossing to ensure officers are posted there to ensure security is adhered to. Now, what is strategic value to this? It moves enforcement to reactive interception towards predictive border management. That simply is. It also creates a richer operating picture for intelligence-led deployment while improving coordination and other security and border actors. And it also supports modern technology-based enabled approach to national border governance. Next slide, please. Before I hand over to my colleague, he's going to discuss more on the invitation to partnership, because as much as Nigeria Customs Service has implemented some of this, we also believe that we can make it better. And through this roundtable, I want you to be specific on what we're going to or what we need from this roundtable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So can your colleague go on with the next presentation as well?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Burhan Idris Suleiman, and I am an assistant controller at the Trade and Tariff Department of the Nigeria Customs Service. Thank you so much, Uzamere, for that wonderful presentation. You've covered most of what we've done on the trade facilitation activities of the Nigeria Customs Service. But I want to reiterate something. I believe for any conversation concerning customs administrations, we need to get something straight. One is that customs at its core is not a revenue collection agency. It is also not an enforcement agency at its core. Customs is a trade facilitation institution. And the revenue is just an outcome of effective trade facilitation. And on the other hand, compliance is also a product of trust between the customs administration and the trading community. And hence, enforcement is the backstop, not the default structure. Now, the Nigeria Customs Service has been on a journey to internalize this at every level of the organization, from the controller general down to the last officer at the cargo terminal. And we are not pretending that the journey is complete, but I can tell you that the direction is very clear. The policy framework is in place and the operational changes are underway, just as we've seen from Uzamere's presentation. Now, we've also have ratified and implemented some foundational frameworks that we've put together to define the architecture of modern trade facilitation. First is the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. We also have the World Customs Organization's revised Kyoto Convention, and of course, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. These frameworks shape our daily decisions across the border management system. And I want to inform you that as of today, we are at 99.6% implementation of the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, which means we've met most of our obligations under the agreement. Now, we also have some pillars of trade facilitation in our trade facilitation programs, but I'll skip that because Uzamere has discussed some of these, like the risk-based clearance. He has also discussed the authorized economic operator program. Now, I want to point out on the AEO, the authorized economic operator program, that the NCS is actively exploring a mutual recognition of the authorized economic operator with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And this means that Nigerian traders certified by the Nigeria Customs Service will also get an extended recognition or trust by the Customs and Border Protection of the U.S. and vice versa. I also want to touch briefly on the one-stop shop he mentioned. It is our most visible and very effective trade facilitation reform concerning port efficiency and cargo dwell time. Now, what we are doing with the OSS is bringing all customs units into one room, and any risk intervention will be done at once instead of how it is done previously in a fragmented manner. So we are now having a single approach, and our target with that is to have a 48 clearance cargo dwell time. Now, the one-stop shop model is fundamentally bringing all customs units risk interventions. And as I mentioned, customs officers, regulatory agencies, representative, and security screening all operate from that shared facility, either online or in a physical office. And one physical examination means one shared result and one release or hold decision. Now, we are also doing certain things in export facilitation, because sometimes exports is overlooked in conversations that focus on imports. And Nigeria's economic transformation agenda is built on non-oil export diversification, agricultural produce, manufactured goods, creative industry, digital services. And for this agenda to succeed, we believe that the export clearance experience must be as efficient as and as predictable as the import clearance experience. And today it is not, but we are changing that narrative. The NCS has restructured the export declaration processing, substantially reducing mandatory physical examination. And with the deployment of the non-intrusive inspections, we are seeing a reduction in the number of physical inspections, which are time-consuming. And we are also working with the Nigeria Export Promotion Council and the Nigeria Export and Import Bank to ensure that customs procedures actively reinforce the export incentive framework, not to be an obstruction. Now, in conclusion, I want to be specific about what we ask, because vague partnerships or commitments benefits no one. That's certain. First, we would ask for a technical assistance for our one-stop shop. As Uzamere said, it's not fully operational. We are seeking partnership for infrastructure design, for system integration, and interagency capacity building for the OSS. And secondly, we want to propose that the Nigeria Customs Service and the US Customs and Border Protection commission a joint study on the standard alignment requirements for a mutual recognition of the AEO. The commercial benefits, I believe, for the US and the Nigerian traders is significant, and the study is the logical first step to achieve that. And third, request for a knowledge exchange on routes of origin. The United States has decades of experience administering routes of origin under NAFTA, AGOA, and other bilateral agreements. And Nigeria is building that capacity for AFCFTA. And the last one, we're also requesting a structured customs business partnership. We are proposing the establishment of a formal consultative mechanism between Nigeria Customs Service and the American companies operating in Nigeria. And of course, we want to model that to the WCO's customs to business partnership framework. We also believe that this will give US investors a structured channel to contribute to customs procedures reform. And it will also give the Nigeria Customs Service a direct intelligence about the specific procedural barriers that affect American investment decisions. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the conversation. Good afternoon.
Okay, so thank you so much for this, AC Suleiman. I would call on Chijoke Odo to share some perspectives, from where we see things as a private sector. Over to you.
All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chijioke. I'm a partner at Deloitte. I look after the West African global. I look after the global trade environment advisory business for Deloitte in West Africa. Thanks a lot, CIPE and the American Business Council for always inviting us to share our thoughts around the doing business environment in Nigeria amongst the other things. I know I've had quite a number of conversations with Lola as well. I think you know the first thing that jumps out when you hear the Nigerian customs or when you have this interaction with the Nigerian customs service, it's the marked change over the past couple of years, particularly the last 3 years. I think there is a willingness from Nigerian Customs Service to engage, and like Margaret mentioned earlier on, the Customs CG was the first stakeholder, government institution, to pretty much offer themselves up for a test in terms of how we can partner to ease doing business environment. And then there's like you've heard from the presentation from Nigerian Customs Service, there is a willingness to adopt a lot more global global best practice. So, from the WCO, WTO, and just general digital transformation, like any other private sector will typically want to do. Over the last 3 years, what we have seen as the ears and eyes of the private sector, in terms of interactions with regulators, is the marked shift, towards digitization from Nigerian Customs Service. Nigerian Customs Service has talked a lot about what they have done, and I think one of the things that you know I'm not sure how much you've followed the Nigerian story, especially when it concerns interaction with regulators. Typically, sometimes what you hear. Yes, it has been implemented, but the next question is how visible is it on the ground? I can say, from our own perspective, having interacted with customs, a couple of the things, a number of things that they have mentioned, it's pretty much as accurate as they have said it. So, from the modernization programs, in terms of all the digital tools that they're introducing, Biodogu, the e-cargo tracker, geospatial one, it's live on ground, and interacting with the private sector, they actually getting the benefits. Advanced ruling, yes. It's changed markedly. So if you see an advanced ruling from Nigerian customs, it's pretty much similar to the way you will get it from the EU or from the US or from other markets where the advanced rulings have helped to shape the environment. One-stop shop, they talked about it, the AEO program, yes. Time release study, yes. And when you hear or see the customs authority wanting to do time release studies, it's because there's an appreciation that when you get feedback from what is happening on the ground, it gives you insight into what exactly needs to change. What are the blockers? What do we need to do? So I think the first comment here would be that there is significant improvement in what is going on the ground from a cross-border trade frustration perspective, and the Nigerian Customs Service have played a huge part in making things a lot better. So I mean, it's good to always say that. Having said that, private sector, especially in the last couple of years where they've struggled from economically. If it's not the FX regime, it's geopolitical tensions. So this is eating into profitability, and so the private sector was looking for what are the optimal measures, or where can they gain efficiencies. And so having said that, they always look for who is willing to listen, and then who can they pretty much speak with to get a lot more benefits. Having said that, when you speak with the private sector recently around what more needs to change, what you hear is infrastructure, and I think I think it was Suleiman, AC Suleiman talked about it. There's still a couple of things that need to be done. Some of them within the control of customs, but most of them outside the control of customs. So from an infrastructure perspective, that is something that still needs to be fixed. I mean, the one that jumps out, ensuring that almost every border crossing in Nigeria, especially where cargo moves in and out, you have your non-intrusive scanners. Okay. But again, beyond that, access in and out of ports, it's still a challenge, and something that still needs to be fixed. So again, the private sector will talk about it, okay, within the context of, what more can change. Handshake with other regulators still continues to be an issue. I think I think the last time we met with the CG, he acknowledged that, but again, there's a limitation to what, the Nigerian Customs Service can do. And when we say other regulators, for every consignment or goods that come in and out of the country, it's not just customs, that has to interact with those consignments. You have those who check for standards of the product. You have those who check for safety of the product from a food and healthcare perspective, and no goods can cross the border into the country without having all these other regulators interact with it. So if customs is moving fast, okay, or too fast for these other regulators, and regulators are moving as quick as them, you're always going to have those bottlenecks. And value upliftment is something that I think we've also mentioned to the CG, but something that needs to reiterate. The private sector is still concerned about the uncertainty around value upliftment. And what are value upliftments? Prices declared, customs have concerns around it. And then instead of having those conversations, it uplift the value. And if you look at how the private sector works, especially depending on what industry you're in, you're better off, paying the uplifted value or the new price that have been, set by the customs than trying to challenge it. Okay. And once you accept it, then that price becomes a new price, and so you can't go back on that price. But the reality is that is not how much I actually paid for it. So from a customs perspective, it now brings us to the conversation around dispute resolution framework, and it's one area that I think it can be better improved, or it can be improved or better managed. And that is where if you commending the Nigerian Customs Service for being willing, to adopt best practice and global rules, then the world is moving more towards a post-entry, post-clearance audit environment. So and the idea is, let's traders, especially compliant traders, or compliant trade, move through, and then you take a lot of the interventions to the post-entry environment. A lot of that has been introduced, especially when you see when they talk about the one-stop shop and the willingness to wanting to collect things in 48 hours. And whereby if things go through, no one can stop that consignment, so that's fine. But we want to see a lot more gravitation towards the post-entry environments, so that we don't have these instances where businesses are spending time having to settle, resolve disputes, and while the disputes are going, customs are asking you to pay to put forward a financial guarantee. Financial guarantees are not free, they're costly. So if I have a 6 million or 7 million naira liability, why would I want to put a financial guarantee that will cost half of that and take me 3 months? So a couple of things that we need to do. Nigerian single window and implementation, it's been long coming. Nigerian single window conversation has been on for at least over a decade. Where we created that single window for everything. So it's an issue. A lot of the private sector have seen it as as an issue, but I think our feedback to them is it's just been introduced. That was just leaked last month, and there are still teething issues, which is on one hand, the government is saying you can do everything on one single window, as the name suggests, but you're still asking us to go back to the portals of regulators to go and do a part of the process and then come back there. So, but I think these are teething issues. I think one of the things that we would just need to do is to press on customs and the other regulators who are managing this to ensure that those teething issues are resolved, just like the issues around Biodogo. And I think the last point really is around influx of counterfeit goods. I think the reason why this is important, and we want customs to, the private sector would like customs to help, is if you don't put a level playing field for everybody, okay, then it means that while some people are compliant and some people are, and you allow those who are not compliant to also thrive, then the compliant businesses are out of business. Okay, because if I'm being compliant and I bring in a particular product at $2 into the market, and then somebody who's not compliant is able to bring that same product at $1.5, then of course customers automatically gravitate towards the guy who's able to bring stuff at $1.5, and the guy who's bringing at $2 is out of business. So would also like to see the Nigerian customs to protect compliant businesses beyond just improving efficiency of cargo movement, but also protecting their business. So that's the view of private sector, and of course that is also our view as well, because again we work quite closely with them, as we interact with the Nigerian Customs Service. So those are quick remarks from us at Deloitte, and Margaret, and maybe I'll just stop here, and then any questions or remarks, we'll be happy to provide.
Let's do case. Great one. Thank you. So I guess we'll move to case studies on customs operation reforms.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to upload the presentation or?
Yes, I can share that. And Raul, introduce yourself. We didn't get
Delighted to do that. Let's start with the formalities. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jose Raul Perales. I call him Raul. I'm director of CIPE's trade practice, now in its 10th year, director and founder actually, and deputy director of the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, which is the world's only public-private partnership designed to implement trade reforms. A lot of what we will be talking about here, what I will be talking about here with respect to case studies, is the result of the work that we have been doing in this realm. And of course, I'm going to try to speak clearly, but also diligently and fast. This is a very visual, number-heavy presentation. So the numbers speak for themselves, as I would have it. Because I want you to ask questions and use this as a framework for exploring what can be done in Nigeria. So please, next slide. Very quickly, as I said earlier, just a quick characterization of who we are. We are essentially a technical expertise group. So again, our goal here is to improve the overall efficiency and security of border environments in a way that benefits both governments and private sector. We manage and execute our projects directly. This is a bit of a different model from the way CIPE operates, meaning that we hire the specialists, contract IT developers, acquire the equipment, and all the things necessary to perform the reforms inside of the agencies. Again, as I said, we work as part of the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, but we also partner with other entities and organizations with similar objectives. Next slide, please. Delving now directly into the case studies. The first one that I want to bring attention to is Malawi. This is just to give you a sense of the scope of the kinds of things that we're able to do. In Malawi, we launched a project, which by the way, we also did in Zambia. You will not hear me talk too much about Zambia, but certainly we can talk about both of them. The reason is because Malawi's performance was faster and more complete than Zambia. So certainly we can discuss why the differences in a Q&A section. But on this part, we went to Malawi. The Malawi Revenue Authority brought us a challenge, right? They had outdated, non-transparent system for licensing customs clearing agents, too many mistakes in customs declarations, which meant delays at the border, which meant lost revenue, which meant also corruption in the handling of customs declarations. And so the objective of our intervention was to create a modern, efficient, and fair licensing system that is consonant with World Customs Organization and World Trade Organization best practices. In effect, this was, as much as we like to call it a customs efficiency project, it was also a human resources project, a human capital investment project, right? It's investing in the capacity of an entire coterie of professionals to actually formalize their activities, develop a trajectory, a professionalized trajectory for the customs broker, eliminate what we call in the business the briefcase broker, right, which is the informal agent that supports work at the border, and actually provide more transparency to the overall process of filing a customs declaration. The project had 3 phases: licensing framework design, which included regulatory reforms, training modules, testing modules, etc. Phase 2, training and examination, where we actually brought the brokers in for the proper trainings, for changing their approach to their own profession. And then, of course, the phase 3, the rollout of the training and the new licensing system with a new regulatory framework. Next slide, please. You will see some pictures and some of the entities involved here. Interesting. Yeah, that's the right slide. The government stakeholders, again, Malawi Revenue Authority, which is part of the Ministry of Finance, but also Ministry of Justice and the Malawi Parliament, again, because we had to pass a regulatory reform as part of an overall government revenue bill. So it did require, not only did it require interagency coordination, but is that in the overall picture of when we think about these kinds of reforms, we might want to think about the control agencies at the border, and the inspection agencies, etc. But in this environment, the question is not so much who is actually involved in some activity or some control of the border, but who should be aware of the kinds of things that we're doing. The Ministry of Justice does not usually come across as an entity that you would use in that, or you would engage in trade reform. But in this case, it was, because it was a regulatory reform at the end of the day. As I said earlier, we work with private sector stakeholders, the Indigenous Clearing and Forwarders, Forwarding Agents Association. Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry was key because it brought the user experience, not just the brokers themselves, but the businesses that import and export that have to file these declarations, and what sorts of challenges that we're confronting in the environment. Because it was a regulatory reform project, it was very long. It took 6 years. Usually our projects take a little less than that. But again, because we were waiting for parliamentary procedures. And that was the overall project of the budget, a budget for the project, sorry. Most of our projects come under budget. Our reforms are extremely lean and efficient. Next slide, please. So this is a beautiful historical photo, actually, because this is the first cohort of certified clearing agents after the first exam. And by the way, one thing I should have added in terms of our projects and our results is that every single one of our efforts has to be measured in time and cost reductions. So that's why I said that this was very much number heavy. In terms of this cohort of certified clearing agents, we had a very high passing rate. I think we had something like 85 to 90% passing rate of this cohort of clearing the exam. Granted, we had to negotiate what constituted a passing grade, but again, all of it came under international best practice standards. Next slide, please. For Malawi, and talking about impact, we conducted an impact evaluation at the request of one of our donors at the time. And this is important because, again, this project was not just a question of improving the efficiency of trade at the border, but actually having a broader social impact with the professionalization of the brokerage industry, investments in human capital, and institutional reform. This was an independent evaluation conducted in 2024 using Malawi revenue data. The results, again, speak for themselves. We managed a 16.2% reduction in custom processing times, 43.2% reduction in errors in the lodging of the declaration, and 23.1% reduction in the brokerage costs, right? So that just gains efficiency. Things about this that are really interesting, again, going back to taking advantage of our colleague from Nigeria Customs, who talked about customs as an agency of trade facilitation, not just revenue collection. We did all of this without using technology. We did not, I mean, other than a digital exam, we did not have to invest in an expensive IT system for customs in order to obtain these gains. These were simply done by investing in the human capital. And as I said earlier, it's a reform focused on human and regulatory elements, professionalizing the brokers, right? And again, the solution came because we identified in the process where were the bottlenecks and the choke points, not necessarily because we had a preconceived idea of what intervention to make in the country. As I said, the implications of the project, we came into a system characterized by low skills, weak accountability. We saw with training and licensing reforms a rapidly improved performance. And the beauty of this project is that there is high potential for replication and regional scalability. COMESA was very interested in taking this project to other parts of Africa, and they actually began conversations with the AFCFTA and the Africa Union Secretariat because this could be a model to be regionalized in the entire continent. Again, Zambia, we conducted the same project in Zambia. The regulatory reform proved harder to do in Zambia. Zambia did not want to move to advance on that reform for strictly political reasons. But again, the gains start to speak for themselves. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example of other projects in other parts of the world that we have done, just to give you a flavor of what we're capable of doing. In the case of Colombia, we confronted a problem, and again, this was brought to us by the Colombian private sector, that there was inconsistent treatment on tariff classifications, values, and rules of origin, which meant that in different ports of entry in the country, Colombia has 13 ports of entry, which meant that unnecessary border delays, additional costs, uncertainty, depending on the point of entry, your good will be classified or valued in a different way, even though it's the same product. So in conjunction with the Colombian private sector, particularly the automotive industry, we focalized in that sector as a result of a consensus between the government and the private sector. We developed a center of excellence, which is an institutionalized space for the private sector and customs to exchange knowledge about each other, about supply chains, about compliance, about regulatory requirements, examine the process of clearing customs, and then find ways of improving and streamlining it to make it more efficient and more secure. And of course, in this case, we focalized on a process, obtaining advanced rulings, and see how the exchange of this information could support obtaining these rulings. We have a bunch of numbers for this. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights of the results. We have faster advanced rulings. They used to be issued in 120 days. Now they're issued in 90 days, which means that more traders are asking for these rulings. The time was a reason they didn't ask for them. Rulings increase predictability for traders because rulings give you a determination of these values before your goods arrive. So it reduces the friction with the customs authority. As I said, reduction in valuation and classification disputes, and of course, overall shorter release time for imports. And the important thing, and just one last thing on this, the reason this aspect of imports is important is because, yes, Colombia is an auto manufacturer. 80% of Colombia's automotive output is exported, but 65% of the inputs into the manufacturing of a car in Colombia are imported. So by supporting an import process, we're also supporting Colombia's exports. So this is our role in improving a supply chain and helping the country have a more advantageous position in the global economy. A couple of additional projects in Guatemala. We made a kind of an atypical intervention here. We developed a maritime single window for the port for port procedures. What was the challenge? Cumbersome manual procedures done by 5 different government agencies every time a vessel comes into the port that require physical visits, manual documentation only when the ship arrived, that delayed the unloading of the cargo at the port, which created demurrage costs for the traders, for the shipping companies, and larger turnaround times for vessels, so made the ports inefficient. What did we do? We introduced a maritime single window so that all of these agencies could receive their documents concerning the vessels ahead of time. So by the time the ship arrives in port, the documentation is cleared, the vessel is cleared, and unloading of the cargo can begin faster. Again, results of this, an interagency coordination at the port level that didn't exist before through a data mechanism that all agencies share. We reduced arrival and departure processing times by 85%. We increased efficiency at the ports and an annual savings in trade costs on $4 million. Next slide, please.
Did you build technology in this project, or
yes,
you did build?
This was
so that's why it's atypical.
Right. Well, no, it's atypical because we focused on the port as opposed to focusing on the agencies in headquarters or the agencies in a regulatory environment. This is a purely operational intervention, right? Now, last but not least, what I want to talk about is our current project in Moldova, which is actually led by my colleague Aurelio Garcia. If you have any questions over that project, he can definitely address them. In Moldova, we designed an intervention focused on the Food Safety Authority, and we have done a lot of these in different parts of the world, each one tailored to the needs of the country, of course. But in the case of Moldova, we were surprised by the level of the amount of paper-based procedures in the relationship that the Food Safety Authority has with customs, particularly in specific border crossings. And this, and as I mentioned before, in this case in particular, looking at physical inspection of goods and the inspections of the collaboration between the two agencies on border inspections in specific border crossings. The objective of the project then was to develop digital services at the Food Safety Authority that could improve traceability, transparency, and risk-based controls in these border crossings, one in particular, Leuseni. This is where we also piloted an agricultural AEO program, meaning that we brought the Food Safety Agency into the authorized economic operator, which traditionally was the remit only of customs. We created a mechanism through which customs and the Food Safety Authority exchange data in real time. Actually, it's an automated exchange system, meaning that you don't depend on somebody pressing a button and looking. So the information, as soon as the information arrives, the two agencies receive it and share simultaneously. And the part that we're most proud of is, in a way, already at least I am most proud of, you're certainly proud of the rest, is an international best practice that we're developing a strong interest in implementing this in a range of countries. We work with it in Guatemala, we're now working with it in Moldova, and we're in conversations with the OECD about doing this in other parts of the world, which is to create a modernization unit within customs to institutionalize continuous improvement and regulatory reform. What does that mean? It means that an agency that already is doing the reform, okay, so what are you learning from these reforms that can inform your next reform, taking stock of your own processes, and continuously create a positive feedback mechanism through which the agency is vested in its own improvement. That this is not just a pressure from outside or from the private sector, but that this is a positive feedback mechanism of continuous improvement. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, customs is a service provider. If the custom doesn't provide a good service, the trade doesn't get doesn't trade more or doesn't invest more. Thank you for your attention, and open to questions and answers. Actually, I think that's our next intervention or our next section.
I mean, that was very insightful, Raul. I did say in the text, just jumping in to remind everybody that's an interactive session. The questions would not be moderated. Please put your hands up if you're online. So, but please chime in with questions and comments. I think a lot of what you talked about, Raul, resonates quite significantly with what the officers from the Nigerian Customs Services talked about, that, is part of the innovation in Nigeria, particularly, I think the Guatemala one, and even this self-improvement initiative that you're starting is super exciting to me. So I'll be quiet now, and I do want the experts online to get a chance to ask questions for the next 10 minutes. And then after that, I'll pass it back to you, Raul, to moderate or, guide us towards the solution-oriented discussion.
And actually, we can actually integrate both sessions, I think, because the idea here is to have a conversation about, again, this is a sample of the work that we have done. What I've presented here are measures that some of them are very familiar to customs authorities, but some of these are things that aren't necessarily a question of the customs authority itself, but it's other agencies as well. It's things that the private sector will definitely have connection to, or even in atypical areas, as I said, with the port operation here, right? Which is something that doesn't automatically come to mind. As if you look at this Guatemala project, we worked with the Guatemala military, which actually regulates the ports, right? So, or manages the port. So it's not, as I said, we're problem solvers, we're problem oriented. So there's no agency that we won't work with if it is part of a solution or an ideal solution to a problem experienced by the trade. So in that respect, again, opening the floor to any questions with respect to, I actually have some questions for Nigerian customs, but
Yeah, go ahead.
but no, I mean, I
I
was
think we
fast.
start with this. Let's do the questions.
Yeah,
But let's do that, yeah. Does anybody have
Phil.
any?
Yes, we can.
Maybe you
Go
can.
back to the Zoom.
Oh,
to the-
sorry,
yeah.
I went back to the Zoom and I didn't stop it for you all.
There we go.
So you have a question for,
Well, let's hear from folks, right? Because my question for customs had to do with their presentation. I wanted to see if they had any targets that they wanted to achieve, right? They presented a very ambitious scope of reforms, things that they have been accomplishing.
Yeah.
With respect, for example, to the AEO, with respect to the reduction in processing times. But I was wondering, I mean, you see from our work that we start with a baseline and we work towards a certain level of efficiency or a certain level of progress. I was wondering if the colleagues from Nigeria Customs can give us an idea of either a baseline that they started with for some of the reforms, and colleagues from Deloitte as well, because he presented some similar areas. Whether there is a baseline that they started with that they can share, and whether there's or a target or something to give us a timeline of a sense of coordinates of where these efforts are.
I think customs are best placed. I'm aware that there are lots of data. Whether they have it with them now and they can share is a different conversation. But I know that data exists, where they started from and how far they have gone since they started the time release studies. I know they have done 2 or 3 now. Maybe they're still here, but I know they have. I don't have that data, but I know that exists within customs. I think that has been presented at some of the sessions that are led by the CG. Samira?
Okay, good day, sir. We have those data, but I would advise it be requested officially, right, through the CGC. That's very important. We have those data, and also like I said initially, in our new modernization project we started in 2022, we hope to achieve end-to-end automation from our manual process which we were. So, but concerning data, if we have an official request, we're definitely going to give it to you. And apart from that, there's another thing concerning the project that I can share after the meeting concerning what we have achieved in the past couple of years and what we hope to achieve before the end of the concession agreement. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, and regarding the last TRS, which was 2024, I think we can also share the results of the TRS after this meeting. And I think for the baseline you asked, the modernization project has been on since 1998, and I think the target we are heading to is having an end-to-end paperless system. Thank you.
is it possible to quantify in any way how much progress has been made in terms of having a paperless system? I think from the presentation, there's been a lot of progress in moving to an automated system. Would you say you're at 20% or closer to 50%? And of course, with the new innovation that you talked about, Ida Bodogu or the OSS, I think you were talking about, I imagine that has also accelerated things. Are you also deploying that for every type of, clearing or goods that comes into the ports, or are you targeting maybe one section? Is this something that's rolled out or piloted with a small or for a small period of time? And by the way, I'm asking, you can tell that I'm a complete novice in the trade and logistics context, but from a private sector. Yeah. And I was asking for the for either Officer Ozamere or Officer Suleiman.
Okay, thank you very much. The pilot phase has been done way long time ago. Concerning clearance, I know concerning clearance, like for imports, exports, has been fully automated. So if I should give it a percentage, I could say if import has been automated, export has been automated, transit has been automated. I will give it about 80% has been automated, because right now we just implemented what they call the electronic cargo tracking system, which is for the transit within Nigeria command and ports and bonded terminals. So I would say 80 to 90%. If anything has not been automated, it's just probably just a little, but I can't quantify it 100%, but I know we are getting there. We're almost there. Thank you very much.
Aurelio, please.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. Just since we have the privilege of having here a few customs officials from Customs, just a couple of things for them. I have this question maybe from Mr. Suleiman. I can't see everybody's name, but first of all, my utmost respect for the work that you guys do. I really admire government officials because the work that you guys do.
Hi, it looks like, sorry to jump in, but it looks like there are parts of the room where the mics are not great. So
I can go over there. No problem. If that's easier.
It's fine. They could hear me, but not him.
This is a comment and a question for our colleagues from Nigeria Customs. Okay, can you guys hear now?
clear, much clearer.
Very
Yes,
good.
we're here.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge the important and difficult job that you guys have. The work that you do touches the lives of literally millions of people in Nigeria. That is a great responsibility. And it is a responsibility I am very glad I don't have, because I would like to get up every morning, going to work, thinking, how is my job going to affect so many businesses in my country? At the same time, we have the luxury here of using other people's money to help organizations like yours. And since you guys are involved in many different modernization initiatives, which is very commendable, I just wanted to ask you about the recent launch of the National Single Window that you guys did. Again, first of all, congratulations. It's very difficult to launch any type of initiative. Developing a new program in government requires some sort of entrepreneurship, but also it requires an entrepreneurial spirit in the most difficult environment, which is the public sector. The public sector does not recognize, does not acknowledge or incentivize creativity, out-of-the-box thinking. So that's why we're always very appreciative of any government official who has to develop a new system, a new process, right? Because you guys are basically entrepreneurs in government. But I wanted to ask you, how has the launch of the single window gone? My understanding is that this first phase is focused on licenses, certificates, and permits for 3 agencies. And if I put myself in your shoes, and I have worked with many customs administrations in different, it's always difficult to get the attention of the agricultural health authorities, technical standards. How have you guys persuaded these institutions to actually join the single window? How have you guys persuaded them to say, hey, from March 25th, or whenever it is that you guys launch, you guys are going to use the single window to process these licenses, certificates, and permits?
Okay, thank you very much for that interesting question. The way it is done, first of all, let's understand the single window framework and architecture, right? It is run by the Nigeria Revenue Services, not really by Nigeria Customs Service, but in tandem with a lot of stakeholders. So first of all, policies, we updated upgraded our tax laws. So we had new tax laws that mandated some stakeholders to fall in line, which include customs, Standard Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, which has to do with drugs, health services, and all. So based on those laws, right, we had to come back to the table and update our own tax laws because the Nigeria Revenue Service laws spoke about that these supersede all other laws concerning taxes and all, including license permits and all. So basically, all other parastatals fell in line because of the new policy and the tax laws that was put in place. And that helped in the implementation. And mind you, right now, we just still in the pilot phase, which just started like about 2 weeks ago, and everything is moving smoothly. And this is just the first phase. Hopefully, by the second phase, it will get better and it will get more and to get more wider. Thank you very much.
So just to add to that comment, yes, it's been drawn out of the regulatory agency that is running the single window is Nigeria Revenue Service, previously the FRS, so essentially those who collect federal taxes. So just like other agencies, NAFDAC, SON, Co, they all have to plug it, they have to plug in. So customs is like any other agency. But there are still challenges with the Nigerian single window, like I mentioned earlier on. So the private sector has still seen a lot more delays come out of for the last 2 weeks because of the launch. Okay, so but clearly some agencies have not fully plugged into the Nigerian single window. So they have their legacy systems. And so what happens is things start in the single window, they migrate back to their own legacy systems, and then they will tell you they have sent information back to the single window for you to go there. And when you go to the single window, you can't see it. So those systems, legacy system and single window, are still not talking. They shouldn't even be talking because these legacy systems should be gone. Well, gone to the extent that it doesn't interfere with what the single window is supposed to do, which is every single thing that has to do with the customs process, the clearing process, should be done out of the single window. So again, if you speak with anyone, they'll tell you that no country who launched a single window, got everything right in the first 2 weeks. So again, maybe we can have this conversation again in 3 months to see if it's running smoothly and everyone has plugged into the single window as they should.
Great. So keeping my eye on the time, we have 15 minutes to go. I would want us to circle back. Thank you so much for those presentations and clarification. I want us to circle back to the 4 asks that Officer Suleiman mentioned at the end of your presentation and sort of zero in on those. Is that what you wanted to?
No, it's true. I just wanted to highlight one, just for reference and in case anybody, for connection's sake and whatnot. My group in the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, we have worked in Nigeria before. And one of the things that we developed, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I'm a loudspeaker. So in the context of our collaboration with Nigerian authorities in 2020, we actually did an intervention with the Lagos Murtala Mohammed Airport. And what we did at the airport was basically build a standard operating procedure for collaboration across the security and inspection agencies for joint inspections of air cargo arriving at the airport. I mean, at the time, each agency had their own, obviously their own jurisdiction, their own area of work with the airport, but there was no protocol by which, upon receiving the manifest from air cargo, that customs would call X agency if customs saw something that was problematic, who received the manifest first, who saw the customs declaration, in what cases prompted a risk, etc. So it was very ad hoc in terms of the airport. And we worked with airport authorities to create a public-private group within the airport to begin developing the standard operating procedures that are still in practice. These procedures were then used, for example, for developing other kinds of cooperation across agencies, but have been designated a best practice for potential border agency collaboration in other parts of Nigeria. I'm just saying that there is some groundwork that we have done in the country to demonstrate the kinds of things that can be done in public-private collaboration. To me, actually, also the air cargo companies were part of that group. The freight forwarders, the express carriers, they were all part of that of the design of that SOP, right? So just by way of a footnote to let folks know that there is already some work that has been done in Nigeria that we can build on from experience. Please hold on.
Was sorry, just quick one. Was that 2020?
Yes.
2020. I mean, I would imagine that a lot has changed since then. I mean, a lot of the reforms you see the customs, our friends at Nigerian Customs Service presenting is the last 3 years. There's been a huge leap over the last 3 years, and I'm confident that a lot would have done, of course. But again, I know the airports. I know you talked about Murtala Mohammed Airport, but I'm sure the airports generally are areas where you see that there are some certain gaps, because of how fluid consignments have to move. But yeah, just wanted to also put that as a footnote as well.
Of course.
And again, just piggybacking on that point, the collaboration is inevitable for success to happen across all of these private sector organizations and organizations like us and the ABC. And really, thank you, ABC, for making sure that you continue to work very closely with the NCS and also for the receptiveness from the NCS. So just in the next 10 minutes, if we can go back to those 4 asks, we took notes of them, but I would like you to go through them in order of priority of, if we had the resources in terms of man hours to devote to something, what would be the top 2, priorities of the 4 that you would put forward, and then of course leave the other 2 on the list. But let's talk about let's hone in on the top 2 in the next 10 minutes. So we have 10 minutes. So I guess this would be to Officer Suleiman and Officer Osamiri.
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. And if you ask me to choose the top 2, I would go for the first, the AEO mutual recognition facility study, because we've just, I mean, our AEO is just less than a year now, and we are still having companies coming up, and we are still trying to improve the certification process. So if we can have that as a priority, we would appreciate. And then having a structured customs business partnership, for me, I think is a priority, because it will give US investors a structured channel to contribute to procedural reforms. I don't know if I speak your mind, Officer Uzamere.
Yes, you actually do. I think this is a very, very good one, because if you look at the AEO mutual recognition feasibility study, right, it will ensure that we are up to par or up to standard, and to also ensure that we adhere to international best practice. So I'm very, very keen on that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, just also by way of footnote, until the beginning of last year, and again, Aurelio was leading this effort on our behalf, we actually helped craft to my knowledge, the only regional mutual recognition agreement of authorized economic operators in the developing world, which is, we brought together 11 customs authorities in Latin America to work on mutual recognition agreements. Granted, some of them had done some work bilaterally, but you can imagine that when you include 11 agencies, the standards of qualification, data harmonization, fields of risk vary tremendously. So we supported the validation process, brought international best practices to the equation, brought experts from some of the target markets. These regional mutual recognition is a bit pointless if you don't engage in some fashion your target markets, right? So bringing the United States or Singapore or the EU or Britain or some of these other ones. In the case of Latin America, we work with the United States, which is usually a market, the target market for Latin American exports. And then, of course, we became a reference point for the World Customs Organization because they are in turn pushing the idea of regional mutual recognition agreements. So certainly we are in the position to support this type of effort. We've had experience doing it in other parts of the world, and we commend you because it is really the future of these programs for any country that wants to implement them.
Yeah, colleagues, on that point, and again, congratulations to Nigeria Customs for the Trusted Trader Program. I like Trusted Trader Program better than Authorized Economic Operator, but same thing. My impression from here is that you guys are trying to do quite a lot very quickly when it comes to the AO. You're certifying pretty much everybody in the supply chain. Importers, exporters, transportation companies, brokers. You guys are thinking also about MRAs. That's very difficult to do. Doing all of those things at once is very challenging. Most administrations, many administrations, what they did is to have a laser-focused approach to the AO program, focusing on security, not compliance, security first, not compliance, focusing on exporters first because they're easier to certify, and then slowly, as the institution develops that internal knowledge and capacity to integrate with the technology department, with the risk management division, with the post-audit division, as the institution learns the details and the mechanics and the complexities of this Trusted Trader program, they slowly open up the doors to other links of the supply chain. Again, I'm not very familiar with the program because, again, we just met. But from what I have seen, you guys are trying to do a lot, probably with not a lot of people. And let me also put this disclaimer here. If you open the door of the mutual recognition agreement, which I totally understand the political pressures to do a mutual recognition agreement. But what we can tell you is that as promising as they are, we have not seen a lot of actual evidence of their effectiveness. Politically, they're very attractive, but the negotiation is very time consuming. Negotiating a mutual recognition agreement is extremely complex. Implementing it is even more complicated. So the question that I have for you is, where do you want to focus your limited resources? Do you want to strengthen your domestic AO program for exporters, for importers, for transportation? Transportation companies are the most difficult. I will leave them last because of the vulnerabilities. But do you want to put the limited time and people that you have on strengthening the domestic program, focusing on one or two links? Or do you want to open this door of the mutual recognition agreement, which again, in theory looks great, but when we have looked under the hood and we negotiated a regional agreement with 11 customs administrations, the results are a little bit so-so.
Yes, I agree with you so much. It's difficult doing things all at once. But our focus currently is on importers. We are currently certifying importers, both security and compliance. And we are also focusing on MSMEs. Yes, trying to provide support for them to be compliant and so on. And but in terms of MREs, we've already signed an MRE with South African Customs, and it's working for us. And we are looking at signing another one with the United Kingdom very soon, hopefully.
That's the key one.
Thank you, Mr. Suleiman. And just one final thing, because I don't want to miss this, but another line of work that is working in other places when it comes to trusted traders is expanding the certification to include the other border agencies. So Jose Raul alluded to this in the Moldova project. We have included the Food Safety Authority into the AO certification. This is a very innovative line of work that many countries are doing all over the world. I respectfully encourage you to look at it, because to actually facilitate and reward trusted companies, it's not just customs, right? Everybody blames customs. Everybody thinks that every single delay is customs, but sometimes it's the Food Safety Authority. Sometimes it's the Ministry of Agriculture. And since you guys have just launched the LCPO module with these three agencies, for example, one thing that we did in Paraguay and also in Moldova is to provide priority treatment, first in line treatment with the other border agencies when it comes to the certificates. So basically what the single window analyst sees when they log into the system and they see the list of licenses requests, the licenses requested by the AO companies, they're highlighted with a different color. So it's a very simple change from a technological point of view, and it's something that the AO companies will appreciate, because they see that all of their licenses requests, they skip the line. So anyway, mutual recognition is one option. Strengthening your domestic customs-centric project is another option, but expanding the certification to the other border agencies, especially the three that you already have on the new single window, is something to consider. And again, we're happy to help in any way.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you so much. And I believe I agree with you that having an all government approach is better and would help the businesses more. And that's why before the formal launching of the AEO, we engaged other government agencies. We informed them of the procedures, the benefits businesses and governments stand to gain with the AEO program, and we're able to get their buy-in before we actually launched the project, and we also share the results of the verification and inspections we do before issuing the AEO license. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We're at time, so I want to turn to you, Chijioke, on behalf of the, at least on behalf of ABC for now, to just, respond to the request that I think Mr. Suleiman mentioned, and he spoke the mind of Mr. Ozamer as well, which is the time release study, the joint effort around working on the time release study. There were three other asks around capacity enhancement and support. And then there was a third one when he spoke earlier, but this is the one that's of priority, which is working on the time release study, a joint effort towards that. So I want to give you a chance to respond or react to that, see if there's anything else that you think might be a priority that could have a multiplier effect on customs operations in Nigeria for the benefit of US investors and also local import and export organizations in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I could just attempt it. I think the best people to really determine what is best for customs is customs. Okay. I know that they've done all sorts of analysis. I know this because of lots of conversations we've had with the CG and his thoughts. But again, things are fluid, things change, and as things evolve, new needs arise. Okay, so maybe that ask in terms of what exactly is needed will be something that the CG will be best placed to answer in terms of what the immediate needs are. But I would also want to give some credit to Suleiman and Uzumera. I'm sure that they probably would also have real time update into what the pressing needs of the CG are. But again, from the question you asked, Lola, from outside looking in, and I think your colleague also mentioned around, who talked about what I've done in Moldova and the other countries. Capacity building is always something that, they can't get tired of getting, because, how many customs officers do you have there? And not everyone has received the kind of trainings that you would expect from a world-class customs of official agency. So maybe that would be one area that the customs would like to get. But again, the next question will be, capacity in what specific areas? Is it on post-clearance audits? Is it on valuation? Is it on classification? Is it on what exactly? So that's something that absolutely we'll need to get. I also want to touch on conversations around the other agencies. I think it's important that some of these interventions can only be done above customs. Okay, so if you see how Nigeria is structured in terms of who reports to who, so while customs, will be under the Ministry of Finance, the other agencies will be under different ministries, and they all have their mandates, they all have their objectives. And so to have one agency, one pretty much an AEO for all agencies requires a high level stakeholder engagement, with the government itself, the federal government itself, to set at the center, to mandate others to be able to chime into the scheme. So maybe just to leave it there, and not try to preempt what the CG might want, but just to provide my views around what the private sector would like to see lots of customs officials do, which is, to have the capacity and the knowledge to be able to discharge their mandate, across all levels and across all commands.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think this has been quite productive. We tried to cover what would usually require a whole retreat in a few hours. We agreed with the ABC that we'll put together some sort of a roadmap or communique that will be most likely very useful to you, Chijioke, since you're holding the pen and the mic for this engagement for the ABC, in collaboration with the ABC team themselves, and also with the NCS teams who are working closely with you on this. I know you have your next updates meeting sometime in June, I believe. You have them quarterly now, as Margaret was talking about. And I hope that we can at least have this report put together. We can have something for you to respond to in terms of what opportunities there are for some, low-hanging fruit interventions and support by then. But in the meantime, I would seize the opportunity now on behalf of CIPE and the ABC to say thank you very much to our colleagues from the public sector side, the NCS, who attended, and to everybody else who called in from the different ABC member companies. Thank you for being here. These conversations are important. You can't have enough of them for change to happen, because the first thing that you need to happen for change to happen is communication and giving information around and all that. So this is important. This has been very helpful. I think it's the first of many, and I would encourage you, please reach out if you have any questions, need more information about the case studies. There's so much more information. The reports are more than 60-page reports at the time. I read the Zambia and the Malawi one, that the trade team, the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation team have worked on. If you need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to the CIPE team. You can always reach us either through the ABC or directly to my colleagues. So once again, thank you. Thank you to all the behind-the-scenes actors, Elisa and Sophiat and the rest of the team at the ABC for putting this together. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. For everybody else in the Southern Hemisphere. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you again, and have a great day. And have a great day, everybody here, too.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.